Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. We're going to give it about 30 seconds, let people trickle in, and then we'll get started. Okay, let's get started. So welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to Cyera's webinar, Inside AI Guardian, our AI security webinar. And it'll give you a good idea of where we're headed with AI security, our vision, and then we'll get a little bit hands-on with the product as well. So my name is Zen Malik. I'm a product marketing director here at Cyera for our AI Guardian products, and I'll let Yuval introduce himself as well.
Yeah, so hey everybody, I'm Yuval Sorel. I'm a product manager at Cyera for AI Guardian.
Thanks. So jumping right in, AI is everywhere. The promise is quite clear, right? We are using AI to make us smarter, more efficient, and innovative. But like any new technology age, early enterprise investment is seeing some speed bumps. A lot of pilots are failing or failing to reach production. And that's simply because they weren't built for the scale or trust that we're accustomed to when it comes to enterprise technology or especially enterprise applications. And what we're seeing and what we're seeing from our customer conversations is often it comes down to having poor or insecure data controls. So we wanted to look into that a little bit deeper. And about 4 months ago, we ran a survey of over 900 security and IT professionals. And that survey really revealed three key themes. One was around visibility. Often in security, we say that you can't protect what you can't see, and AI is really no different. Um, Security or visibility, lack of visibility led to like a big spread of shadow AI. In fact, we had one customer where they said, well, we know we have about 5 approved tools, but we also know that there's 200 unauthorized tools. So that really increases your attack surface and problems with the controls. And that really goes into the second theme, which is lack of governance. Even if you do have visibility into the AI, a lot of customers, a lot of the survey respondents said that they lacked the blocking or enforcement capabilities to control or set the guardrails on how AI was used. And then finally, AI presents unique technology challenges. It's hard to follow the data or identities as they access AI. And obviously, that limits the amount of controls that you can put on. So, Yuval, as you're talking with customers, what are the three things that you find the hardest? And also as you're building the product itself.
Yeah, sure. So visibility is definitely a major one. It comes out virtually for all organizations. AI lives in many different places and you don't always know about it. So it's kind of an unknown. And I gotta say another major one is having consistent controls and governance for these AI tools. So because it lives in different systems give you different controls possibilities, and it's hard to keep track and manage when it's not consistent. So you're trying to build out your AI adoption strategy, and it becomes complex, it becomes a
Yeah,
mess. So,
for sure. So you definitely need both sides of that coin. You need the visibility and the controls. And as we know, AI is really challenging traditional notions around cybersecurity. So, I want to pose it back to the audience. Are we missing any things as you're looking to, get education in this webinar? What we'd love to hear your thoughts in the chat. Like, what are your biggest challenges around AI security? So Moving on, every technology era added a new perimeter and layer of the stack that you needed to protect. Um, and our point of view is that AI essentially redefines where security begins, and that's really at the data layer, well past the era of perimeters, networks, endpoints, or infrastructure. And with AI, it's no longer enough just to protect these containers around the data. It's about securing the data itself in a whole new way. AI systems are ingesting huge volumes of data to train, validate, and operate. And as soon as the data is feeding the models, it becomes the target. It's not just about protecting data at rest or in transit, but actually during the processing or in use. Um, but it's easier said than done. So it's not just about locking the data down anymore. It's about sharing it and making it accessible. You know, early on with traditional apps, it was around deterministic access, usually leveraging just one data set where you could see and control every query. Then with the advent of cloud, it added a little bit more complexity, more data sets, more distributed access, and that was happening across APIs, different ecosystems, and different applications. But LLMs and agents, now for those to be effective, you must give them access to almost all your data because you want them to take human-like actions with speed, precision, scale. Uh, so it really makes you rethink, how is your existing security platforms enabling that? And that's why at Cyera, we really believe that we're in a good position to meet the most fundamental demands around AI security. And that really goes into the roots of our company. We started about four or 5 years ago, trying to solve the hardest problem in data security, which was that visibility with data security posture management, which gave you a precise posture in a fraction of the time that it took you to do that with other competing tools. Then our customers came to us to solve some of the more fundamental problems around DLP and how to protect data in motion, where and when it mattered, with that same level of precision. And now, about 6 months ago, in August, we launched AI Guardian to extend those capabilities to AI security specific use cases, but also remaining and building on that rich data context to secure AI effectively. And we're just getting started. So before we go into the product itself, I want to pose the question back to Yuval. I often refer to AI native classification as our special sauce. Why do you think that this is so important to establish this within AI security?
Yeah. So as I'm sure most of us know, at least, AI is only as good as the data it uses, it has access to. And this means you gotta know what's in the data before we give it access. This causes many organizations to kind of round down. You don't know exactly what you gave it access to. So you disable access, you give it little permissions, but then the AI is not going to be as good. It's not going to solve the problem you want it to solve. So you need to give it access to data, and you need to understand what's in this data.
Excellent. So, I want the audience to think about it. How well do you know your data? How well is it classified? Do you believe your data is actually accessible to really realize the full potential of your AI vision or AI implementations? Moving on to the use cases. AI is not really a monolith. There's many different types of AI. So again, back to Yuval, what are some of these? Can you go in a little bit more detail into these different use cases, and what are some of the more unique challenges in securing them?
Yeah. So AI is a horizontal technology, meaning it meets virtually every part of the tech stack. So many different challenges, many different areas where it comes down to, and kind of I won't go down into each and one of these, but to shout out maybe special challenges in each one is, so for let's take Shadow AI as the first one. Um, this is mainly around controls that you probably already have it to some extent. You want to control data loss prevention or shadow IT, but the usage patterns are different. So users never took CSV files and uploaded them to Google search, but they will do it for ChatGPT. So if your controls didn't catch this before, they have to do it now. For AI assistants and chatbots, um, we're talking mostly about amplified risk. So AI is going to use the full extent of the access you give it, unlike a user, a human user. So if a user had access to files or data they shouldn't have, with AI, they're going to be able to actually get it, even if before it was an acceptable risk. So the access has to be corrected. For AI agents, this kind of comes back to a point we talked about earlier, where it lives in so many different systems. Most organizations have over like more than dozens of these agents, and by the end of the year, probably more than hundreds or even more. So you got to find all of these agents. You're going to understand how they're configured, who owns each one of them, and what is their posture, essentially. And for homegrown AI, this is a very large space of the AI you're building yourself. So if you're fine-tuning models, definitely you gotta know what data process are involved in that, what data are you now hiding in the weights within these models that you trained on. Um, and if we're talking about runtime for applications that you're running, we gotta be able to look into the inputs and outputs of these applications. So the inputs and outputs are not structured as they used to be in regular API at least, which means you gotta take a closer look at the content of the payload and the context of the payload.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I think, so some of the insights that I've seen from customers are the Gen AI adoption, they weren't really able to, latch security on, and they're trying to kind of be reactive. But as organizations are now building homegrown AI or even unleashing AI agents, security has to be baked in from the start. And that's why a lot of those pilots are not taking off unless they have those proper controls into place. So that's a good segue. Actually, I want to just actually ask the audience one more time. Hey, which use cases are more prevalent to you? Because, at Cyera, we're constantly fielding our prospects and customers to find out which use cases are more important. So would love to get more data points from the audience. But now, I want to talk a little bit more about AI Guardian, what it is, how it works. So Yuval, lead us through this.
Yeah. So AI Guardian has many parts to it. One part is what we call AI SPM. And this is where we take many different kinds of AI that lives in your organization, different systems, different places, and map its posture and the data it has access to. How many sensitive records, what type of sensitive records, and this is how you can properly govern it. So maybe now I'll switch to a real product screen where we can take a look at it. So here we're looking at an AI asset, a Bedrock knowledge base, and we can see different things about it. So first of all is the business purpose. We're taking into calculation different data points about this AI asset. The name, the system prompt if it exists, what data it has access to, usage patterns, permissions, and so on, and create a human readable output that you can use if you want to deep dive into what this actually is. Like I said earlier, even if you don't have by now, by the end of the year, you will probably have dozens, if not hundreds of agents. And Even if you want automatic controls, sometimes you want to go deep into understanding what each and every one of them is. And this is a great way to go about it. Some more things we can see here is the classified data this asset has access to. So we're seeing over 2 million sensitive records. We're seeing the types of data, the data classifications, and so on. So when we'll take a look at this can help us detect, oh, there is a mismatch between the intended use of this AI asset and the data we practically gave it access to. Going back to the presentation, which is gonna be like that. Yeah, so we saw how looking at the posture of an AI asset looks like, and now the game is kind of catching all these AI assets and getting as much context on each and every one of these so you can properly govern them. The next piece is AI Protect. So for events related to AI, prompts, actions, responses of AI, we take a deep look into each and every one of these interactions, provide a real calculated severity with understanding the content and the context of that interaction. So which identity, what do we know about the identity that did this, their role in the company, their seniority, their seniority in the company, their other incidents that they might have been related to, and so on. Calculate all of that to provide a defined severity and an explainable reason to why that is the severity. And depending on the integration point, we can even prevent some of these interactions at the get-go. So make sure that the prompt will not even reach the AI system if, let's say, it contains sensitive data. One way that we can integrate this capability into our solution, that's one of many, is what we call AI firewall. So with an AI API integration, we can connect the, let's say, chatbot we're building for our company into this classification engine and analysis engine that can triage the events in case something suspicious happened, or even block it at the get-go. So once again, let's switch back to the product and show a quick demo. So here we see a policy defined for insider information access. It is very easy to define, free-form language, natural language, where we ask the AI firewall to detect employees trying to access information that they shouldn't have. So we should ideally have identity and authorization controls in place, but everybody makes mistakes. We might not have them yet in place. This is a new application that we're rolling out. We want to gauge usage and so on. So here we can see this application, Acme Employee AI Chat. We can ask it questions that are okay to ask. Let's ask, what is Acme's PTO policy? We'll give it time to think. Maybe it will look for the file somewhere in the system, and it generated a response for us. So it found the info. And now let's ask a more malicious question. So what's Acme's upcoming revenue numbers? So this is not information that should be released, and we were blocked. We got this nice UI message telling us that we violated a policy. This is obviously something we can control, and the interaction was blocked. If we go to look at the alerts page and take a look at the actual alert, And we can see that Anna, that's me for that scenario, tried to access revenue data. So it explains the prompt request, access to unreleased financial information, and so on. And in the summary, it also says a logistics analyst from outside finance department attempted to unauthorized access. If we go take a look at Anna's page, like info, we can see that this is in fact true. She's from the logistics department, and we can see other context that was provided for her, like alerts in the last 30 days. This is all taken into account when deciding like if this interaction is valid or not. Coming back to the presentation, and then
Yeah. No, great demo. I think, providing that data and identity context, also within a nice UI, really uh, enables people to have good visibility into their AI deployments. One thing that we've done recently is we've seen a lot of traction around agents within Copilot. I want to call out a recent announcements that we had at Microsoft Ignite last quarter. So around helping secure agents leveraging Entra Agent ID and Copilot Studio. Yuval, am I missing anything else regarding our Microsoft story when it comes to AI?
yeah, so we definitely have other capabilities. Shout out maybe two. One is Copilot direct integration. This is where we connect directly to Copilot and pull out the AI interactions users are using with it. It gives you a way to run it through this classification analysis logic that we talked about earlier, and going to help you to triage specific incidents, understand usage patterns, and gauge how your employees are actually adopting this Copilot that you bought and paid for them. Another one is NHI access. So when we're talking about AI applications that have access to your organizational data, let's say you gave ChatGPT access to SharePoint sites, for example, then we're going to be able to show you what data ChatGPT has access to exactly. And this is just to name a few.
Cool. So Yuval, now you up for some Q&A from the chat?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So let's start with how are AI assets discovered?
Yeah, this is a great question, and I think it was apparent that there are many parts to AI Guardian that you can leverage and use. Some of them we covered today, and not all of them. And the more integration points we can connect to, the more assets we're going to pull. So if we're talking about assets that live in certain platforms, let's say in AWS or in Salesforce or so on, then it's going to be through integration with these platforms. And if we're talking about when we're doing runtime protections, like the examples we gave earlier, then we're integrating with SSE providers, DLP providers, and some of our own solutions that we're building to monitor this traffic, which also create our understanding of what asset is related to that runtime integration.
Cool. On the data classification piece, someone asked, any limits on the number of data classes or can data classes be organized into subfolders and subcategories?
Yeah, sure. So this is actually the bread and butter of Cyera, understanding the data and classifying it to the customer's taxonomy. So there, I don't want to mislead anybody. There might be a limit, but I don't think we ever hit it. So you can create what we call topics, where it's a way to, if you want to say PII can be various different categories. You want to understand what AI asset has access to PII. That's going to be easier if you don't have to list each and every data class every time you try to talk about it. So definitely there is a way to do that. And of course, we're leveraging AI to help you do that. So we're going to suggest the topics based on your data that we see in your environment.
Cool. Now, can we talk about integration to AWS or Google Cloud Security Framework? I'll take a stab at that. I mean, there's such an ever-changing and evolving AI regulatory landscape. I think we're still in the early stages. We're obviously seeing a lot more traction from the EU. The EU AI Act, I've seen a lot mentioned. We've got some great literature on that. I would say in relation to AWS, a key focus of ours is Bedrock, because we're seeing that be the most prevalent platform for building homegrown AI. But Yuval, anything to add there?
Yeah, I think that was a good characterization.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then just reading through the comments, I guess this is more around challenges. Challenges, regulatory compliance versus inconsistent public governance values, very valid. Another challenge, monitoring and securing authentication and allowing correct permissions for agentic AI communications. Yuval, you have any point of view on that one?
Let me take a look at it.
Yeah.
Just to maybe circle back one point before to the
Yeah.
regulatory comment.
Yeah.
I will say we hear it quite often. The landscape of regulation and compliance around this space changes all the time. I don't expect that to settle down anytime soon, but I think it goes to show that how important it is to come at it from first principles. So you gotta understand not the specific controls the regulation is asking for, but what it is you're trying to do to achieve security, essentially. So if you go at it from first principles and tackle the hard problems head on, once these regulations and compliance frameworks are going to settle down, creating the controls and attestation mechanisms is going to be way easier. For the agentic question, can you repeat
Yeah,
that?
more around like the authentication problems with agents and
Yeah,
enabling the right permissions and guardrails.
yeah, that's a hard one. So many ways to go about it. One is you first need to decide, is the agent gonna have, sorry, its own identity, or is it gonna act on behalf of the user interacting with it. That's a major first decision, and I'm not sure there's a right or wrong decision, but that's one. Another one is, and we touched about it before, is assume the agent is going to use the full extent of the access and permissions you gave it. So if you give it access to data, assume it's going to use it. This is why you have to understand the implications of each and every permission that you give it. Another one is to create hard boundaries between actions. And this is more relevant for agents, homegrown agents you're building yourself. One common practice is once an agent does an action that reads sensitive data and you have to categorize it as such, you're gonna not allow it to do any interaction outside your boundary. So to make sure no way sensitive data is gonna accidentally be leaked to the internet, let's say. This is just to name a few, but definitely not the full list.
Yep. Another gentleman said securing connections between API managers, 7 MPC servers, enterprise applications, and logic applications. And I think that's just a perfect indication or an example of, you know, the scale of AI and the operational headaches it's causing. Similar to that, someone said velocity is the key reason to do what you are trying to do. Pausing the velocity kills competitiveness. Yes, like that is the inherent problem with AI right now. Security cannot say no to AI, otherwise they're going to be seen as a blocker. What else? Greetings from Chicago. Bear down. Big victory. That was good. Okay, this is a good one. Why would an organization choose Cyera's platform instead of Microsoft's internal security platform? You know, my point of view is we have a lot of organizations running both. And if you're a big Microsoft shop, maybe the Microsoft platform is great, but AI is heterogeneous. You're going to have so many different types of AI, and maybe Cyera will provide you greater coverage if you're non-Microsoft assets. I don't know, Yuval, if you have a different point of view there.
I definitely agree. I think like generally we're working together with Microsoft. We're augmenting many of their services. One key way to see this is all this partnership we're doing with them. Many different places where the better together story is very compelling, in my opinion.
Cool. We have time for a couple more if you want to enter in any. I'll leave with one, Yuval. Specific to Copilot, can Cyera block Copilot having access to certain data while enabling access to other data? I.e., it obfuscates some data and doesn't allow Copilot to return answers based on that.
Yeah, that's a great question, and actually we get this one a lot. The answer is yes, but it's not necessarily flipping a button. So flipping a switch. Sorry. So there are different mechanisms Microsoft gives to limit Copilot access to certain data. You can limit access to whole SharePoint sites, for example, just for Copilot, not for the users. So that's one. And you can create per-view policies to prevent Copilot specifically from accessing certain files. The key here is to understand which files or stores you want to prohibit Copilot from accessing. That's a major one. And the second one is operational. Oh, that's going to be a tough word. Operationalizing this labeling of files, let's say. So it can be millions or billions of files. You don't only need to understand what's in every file, but you also need to apply the correct label. And you're going to need to know that you applied the correct label and to fit the policy to the said labels you used and created. So short answer, yes. Longer answer, it requires a bit of attention to do it just right.
Yeah. Labeling is not the sexiest topic, but it can be so transformative. Okay, so we're going to wrap things up. Thank you, everyone, for taking time out of your day to attend. Please reach out to myself or Yuval. You can find us both on LinkedIn. Happy to discuss your use cases more in detail. If you like what you heard here today and are interested in a demo, please type yes in the chat. We'll have someone from sales reach out to you. And if you're not ready right now for a demo, that's quite okay. We'll definitely follow up via email with some important resources that you can reference, as well as many of the topics that we discussed in this webinar. Any final parting thoughts from you, Yuval?
I think the main one is that there are many other capabilities that we haven't covered today. If you appreciate and relate to our approach and you're curious, maybe we have other use cases we can solve, definitely reach out. We have more tricks up our sleeve already now, live for many customers, and soon in development. We're moving very, very fast, so stay tuned.
All right. Thanks, Yuval, and thanks everyone for joining. Bye.